Hello, gorgeous. My name is Jessica Angeleri. I'm a feminine embodiment, intimacy, and pleasure coach. And if you know me at all, I love speaking about the feminine, reclaiming the feminine, love, pleasure, and the other one is relationships. And today we are speaking about whether or not you are ready for a relationship, a conscious relationship. What does that even mean? Are you ready to be in a relationship that isn't surface level, that isn't there to continue teaching lessons over and over again, or a relationship that continues to make you feel stuck, or where you feel like you're overgiving and there's this push or pull dynamic, or a dynamic of codependency? Instead, are you ready for a relationship that will continue to bring you to the next level of your evolution? Before we do that, we have to understand what a conscious relationship is and what it is not. Relationships, if we desire a conscious relationship that feels secure, it's not all about sunshine and roses and everything being happy all the time. It's not just based on date nights and fun. Of course, these are definitely important elements and definitely help to keep the relationship alive and help you keep the relationship feeling connected. And who doesn't want to feel happy, right? Or like, it is fun. Relationship, you should be feeling fun. There should be a sense of fun in the relationship, of course. But we want to be feeling good. We want to be exploring the bliss of life, whether or not we are in a relationship. Relationships do not bring you happiness, because happiness is always within you. The thing is, do you believe that? Relationships bring you growth. Relationships take you to the next level of your creation, and they even allow you to expand your visions. They bring you this ability to create another entity and to help you create a solid foundation. They bring you this honesty of who you are. And usually it allows you to explore the depths of who you are more so than if you were on your own. And they also help you to reveal the deepest layers of you, your darkness, so the deepest layers of your fears, of your shame. They also reveal how you deal with situations. Your relationships are your mirror. So the question is, are you ready to look in the mirror? When I first met my partner, Carlos, I remember seeing something deeper, something that I hadn't seen before about myself. It's as though I saw his true essence, that little child who wanted to love and to be loved. And then that's the person that I saw as well in myself. Perhaps he was my mirror. I had already, at this point when I met him, I had already done a lot of my own self-discovery, my own inner healing work and inner child work, and I still am. But I continued to find my truest essence. I continued to touch the divinity through him. I saw myself through him. And then through this, I realized we are one, where we are our own individual person with our own expression, our own voice. But the essence of us was the same, this essence of love and this essence, this desire, this yearning to feel loved by another, to be seen by another, to be heard by another. And this essence of love, I feel, is this thread that connects us. It's what helps us relate to each other. So my attraction to him was not based on this surface level. I which is what I used to be attracted to. I used to be drawn to what this man could give me in terms of, fun, and he was charismatic, and we were going on adventures together. But there was also with that a lack of commitment, a lack of desire to show up fully and authenticity. So with Carlos, I saw his empathy. I saw the way I felt the way he treated me, the way he listened, the way he held space for me through difficult times. And this ability to hold space continued to expand the more over the years, the more we devoted our love to one another. The way he didn't judge me for being me and for being messy and for feeling all my emotions. And I also had to teach him or show him that it was also okay to not have all of my emotions worked out, that it was okay to be in the unknown. And all he had to do was to hold that space for me. I knew how to do that for myself. That was the thing. I didn't know how to do that in my past relationships. And so I really requested and expected a lot of my other partners from my past relationships, and they couldn't do that. I hadn't anchored into my own self-awareness, my own safety, my body, my wisdom to know how to really hold myself in everything. And so all these beautiful things that I'm mentioning, that I was really seen, I was held, I was supported, I was feeling I could trust Carlos to just be there, not walk away when things got hard. This is the kind of relationship that I believe, I know all women are deserving of. But I also believe that you cannot see these aspects in another person or allow them to offer these wonderful qualities if we cannot see them in ourselves. If otherwise we are just filling a hole where we are repeating a cycle like I did that requires our attention to heal, or it requires extra love because this is where we may be hurting. The thing we have to understand is that in a relationship, as I said, it's never going to always just be this feeling of being on a roller coaster on this high and with light and rainbows and butterflies. When you're in a relationship, this is an entity that you both create together, where you can both enter feeling so safe, feeling anchored, and feeling like you can just be you. And this is what Carlos and I have built, where I know that I can just allow my heart to pour out, allow my vulnerabilities to be shown, and I'm not going to be judged for it. The thing that keeps the relationship together is love, that thread of love. It's knowing how to communicate openly with love. When we hear this a lot, communicate, make sure you communicate, make sure you're honest. But if that's not supported by love, by that gentleness and compassion, it starts to feel there is a sense of ego behind it. And this is not where we want to open our heart and pour our heart out. This kind of relationship is all about loyalty and forgiveness and respect, and also this ability to let go and surrender. Even when the challenges arise, there is always love. Love is what withstands all. And I'm not speaking as well about the love that we learn from rom-coms or, this fluff talk. The love that is deep, it's soulful, it's everything. It's what connects us. It's what brings us closer to one another and ignites this intimacy. It's what takes the relationship to the next level. And in this relationship, there are no assumptions about the other person when love is involved. assumptions are what create conflict. Assumptions arise from not communicating honestly, and they're usually projections. It's not coming from that space of compassion and love and understanding. And when we speak from this place of honesty and love and compassion, we then know that the other person in the relationship is not our enemy. They're not a punching bag. We don't use the relationship as a punching bag. Relationships are always a two-way street of giving and receiving, of mutual respect no matter what. And we're also not aiming for that 50-50, because I feel like that places a restriction, it places a condition on how the relationship works. There will be times where you might be a little bit more forward because you might need to, and they pull back, and it works the other way around. What I have seen, though, with myself and with the women who work with me, most of the time, women are, well, their relationship flourishes and blossoms more when women feel safe to take a step back, when we pull back and he naturally comes forward. Now, there's no rule in this, but I feel like women do really grow, and they feel more creative, and they're connected with their wisdom and their intuition, and they feel happier when they are in their feminine, in that place of resting, in that place of letting go, in that place of just trusting him to also take lead. The other thing is, the irony of this conscious, healthy relationship is that it flows and it should feel easy, but then hard work at the same time. But the work is effortless. And the work that I speak about isn't, always fighting and then trying to get your word across, trying to prove your worth in the relationship. It's about devotion. Both of you, both willing to step it up, to continue growing, to be willing to see the other person's perspective and point of view, and to also come from that place of compassion that, okay, yes, I'm hurt in this moment, but this person has also, my partner has felt triggered. And we start to, when we know ourselves deeply, when we've held rich, beautiful, loving space for ourselves, we then know how to pierce through those layers, which are the projections, the ego, and we start to see that our partner is human and they have their own wounds, mostly from their childhood. They have their own wounds of not being seen or not being appreciated or heard. And so that has caused them to feel triggered. So the work that I'm speaking about, this devotion of love, this devotion to love, is that's the beauty of it, that you're both willing to work on an individual level, but then together as a union, together as a unity, showing up for yourself, showing up for the other person, as well as showing up for the relationship, this foundation that you've both created together. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things. I believe we need relationships. They are the essence to our growth. They are vital to our growth, to consciously transform. And these beautiful interactions that you have can be the biggest blessings of your life if we allow ourselves to see it. Even when things feel like they're falling apart, but they only fall apart when one or both of you are not willing to be devoted to that love, be devoted and do the work, or when one is ready to move on to another form of healing and growth and the other person is not, because they're still stuck in their old ways. And that's the thing, even when the relationship fails, the thing that we have to remember is that there are no failures. If you can really see it for what it is, really see what it was there for in the first place. And once we do see maybe it was a lesson, maybe it was to break cycles, maybe it was to help you realize your worth, maybe it was to help you realize your boundaries, where you need to place better boundaries. Maybe it is to see how you desire to feel in a relationship or not. And these are what some of these relationships that didn't work out can teach us. So they're never real failures in our life. And when we bring these little things to our attention, it is then we create a new pathway, a new gateway to love, a new opening to receive a different kind of love. It's in that moment you declare and decide and choose, this is how I desire to feel in my relationship. It's when it begins to show up in your life. It doesn't have to be difficult. I remember when I went through one of my last breakup before my relationship now, I was so fixated on what didn't work, why it didn't work, why he did all the things that he did. But what I understand now is that it allowed me to see my worth. It allowed me to rise in my own consciousness, in my own frequency of love. It allowed me to rise in my worth. So that love allowed me to see my potential for growth and my ability to continue believing in a rich love. Love is never wrong, despite the type of relationship that it was. And I think also knowing that we can drop in and it gives us a little sense of relief. You know, it's all okay. Your relationship will always serve a purpose to either learn something from, a purpose to grow, a purpose to know what it is that is truly close to your heart. And this can be any type of relationship. It can even relate to your friendships as well. We tend to get a lot more from our intimate relationships because we are so close. Our heart is so open and so involved. When both beings are in the relationship who are willing to be committed and devoted to something bigger and something so evolved, the relationship blossoms. It goes into other levels that, I don't know, your mind can't even comprehend. So when you both grow together, this is when magic happens. Now, this might sound woo-woo, but if you're here, you know this is not woo-woo, despite what other people think. You are here because you believe in this kind of love, this soulful, beautiful love, where you know that you can both walk through life, walk through all the challenges, and continue to feel into the blessings of life in this kind of magic, this but at the same time groundedness. Now, I'm not saying this relationship is, you know, all floating around and you're both all over the place. No, this kind of healthy relationship is anchored, it's grounded, it's solid. And here is where you both begin to move from a place that is effortless. You move from the beautiful dance between the masculine and feminine. You both move with the divine, that is love in its essence. You feel it. You feel it in your discussions, in the way you see life, the way you move through challenges and difficult situations. And from that as well, you start to create another entity from this place of love. This entity that is the relationship, which is solid, which is authentic, which is safe, and one that can withstand the winds of any storm that passes through. From this foundation is where something more beautiful begins to grow. It begins to spread its light, which will continue to uplift one another. And then you both then expand that light outwards to other people who are in your space. People can feel it as well. And if there is no solid foundation, which I believe is very important when building this relationship, just like anything really, you need to have a solid foundation. You need to grow these roots, and it takes time. So we need to have patience as well. But if there is no solid foundation where both of you are flourishing and blossoming and evolving, or where you're acting from a place of feeling unsafe or feeling that the love is not being reciprocated, then the road may come to an end. And if it doesn't, the cycle will then repeat. You find yourself in another relationship and you might find that you're repeating. The dynamic is very similar. And it will continue to repeat until you may not be able to continue walking up this hill anymore. Like, you're done, you've had enough. And usually that's when a lot of us feel this power, is in the moment of I've had enough. That's the time, this dark space that we enter, that provides this promise to our power. And if the relationship ends in heartbreak, if it ends in you needing to detach, it's always okay. Know that as well. It doesn't have to mean anything about who you are choosing to be after the relationship. But it is up to you to be humble enough, and really be humble and have the humility to look within to see what are these patterns that you might need to confront. What are these dark aspects of fear or shame or guilt, or these people-pleasing ways that continue to show up in your relationship that really dishonors your heart? And when you do, there will always be a new path for you to take that will take you to another journey of growth and love. So there is never any wrong decision, but we can choose to learn from our decisions that we've made in the past that didn't work out. There's always a hidden message or a piece of wisdom that we can take with us. There's always a blessing beneath it. Even in the hardest, abusive, toxic relationships, yeah, it's a bigger blessing, because then you were able to get out of that and choose a different way for yourself. You have that power to do that, to declare that. So yes, a relationship needs to feel safe, where you can trust him to open his heart to you, and where you can be vulnerable enough to do the same as well. There always needs to be that willingness to feel into your deepest truth. And if there is any part of you that feels held back from this because you're not feeling loved, or you're not feeling safe in the dynamic, in the relationship, then, well, it's not a relationship. A relationship does not entail you guessing, you wondering what he's thinking, you playing games, or going into these feelings of unknown or uncertainty. This is not a solid, loving, flourishing relationship where there's always so many highs and lows, where you're both chasing this uncertainty to find answers from one another. Relationship feels stable, it's grounded, it's clear, it's honest. And if you are in that relationship where you don't feel certain, this is just a cycle that's being repeated, or there's a learning there until you know what it is in yourself that requires you to choose something different. And the cycle will be there as an opportunity for you to become awakened. It is an opportunity to perhaps release something that has been held deep in your cellular being, to release a past trauma or an old attachment style that you learned from when you were a child, or pain that is still being held in your pain body, in your feeling body. We only know when this is occurring through our relationships. And that's why I say relationships give us so much, and they are our best teachers until there's nothing left to learn. And this is why you can do all the courses, all the yoga teachings and tantra studies, but unless you're in a relationship and you are confronted with your own shadows and truth of where you are, you will always be in search. Your relationships are a beautiful opportunity for growth, a beautiful opportunity to bring whatever needs to be brought to the light and released as well. And then for you to decide and choose and declare, no, I'm going to do this differently because I deserve better. I deserve love. And this is where you get to mirror your real triggers in the relationship, and you start to see your old behaviors. Like I said, if you're humble enough to allow yourself to see it. So you don't have to be all healed before you go into a relationship. You can see these triggers in the other person, and then you decide where you get to make a change or not. But I do believe we will never stop learning, and that's the beauty of life, because otherwise, I guess life would just be boring and mundane, and we feel like we've arrived, and we never just arrive. Your relationships will be there to know what is important to you. It is there for you to know what to cling onto and what to let go of. And sometimes the best growth and biggest learning is in the letting go of, no matter how hard it feels. Your growth occurs in the discomfort, in the willingness to change, the willingness to show up every single day as the best version of yourself, or to choose to show up to continue rising into your best version of you. The biggest blessing in all of this is that you will always be supported and held by your own love, which is unconditional. Your heart will always hold you if you allow yourself to drop from the mind. And this is where we bring in the work of the feminine practices, where we can practice being in this frequency of love and knowing how that feels like. Your heart is unbeaten, it's unstuck. Nothing will ever get in the way of it. It's the mind that continues to hold us back. It's the mind that continues to keep us stuck in these repeated patterns that may have been there to keep us safe in the past, but we don't require them anymore. So the next time you go on a date, or maybe you are in a relationship already, I want you to think about this. Just stop and reflect and listen to your body. Is it love? Or am I being carried away by the stories around what a relationship actually means? And again, we can really be immersed in feminine practices which help us to open up to pleasure. Pleasure is a beautiful pathway into love, to know what love feels like. So you can ask yourself, am I getting caught up in the drama, the back and the forth games? Am I getting caught up in the unknown or the uncertainty and think this is a relationship because that's all I've ever known? This is not love, and this is not a healthy, conscious relationship that you are deserving of having. This is purely a cycle, a familiar story that's been playing out in your life, and maybe you've seen it with your parents or people around you. This is an old pattern that somewhere down the path in your life, you may have believed this is where and how you receive love. This cycle and learning is very important in our life. So please know, whatever the answer is, remember there's no right or wrong in this either, because nothing is black or white, as society will try and make us believe. It's not one or the other. This is all about awareness and choice in where you want your life to be taken. And you have the power to shift that. If it is a relationship that entails love, are you willing to then grow with this love through challenges? Are you willing to be honest and vulnerable and open with your heart? Are you willing to communicate what your fears are? Are you willing to communicate with the other person with compassion and empathy and willingness to understand? Are you willing to always look within during the difficult triggers? Are you willing to let go and surrender and allow your heart to lead you? Are you ready to work on taking accountability? Are you not pointing fingers? Are you ready to not point fingers and blame the other person all the time? It's a two-way street, but you can both work through them together if there's willingness and love. Are you ready to really dig into the truth and communicate openly and honestly and with your heart, with your vulnerable and soft, tender heart? Are you ready to practice empathy with them and to see your partner's side to a situation, to really see their wounded self and to be there for them, not to pity them, but to say, hey, we've got this. We can move through this together. Are you willing to place your boundaries and to raise your standards, but do it from the place of love? This is what I expect. This is what I need from you in order to feel so and so. Are you ready to see your partner as your best friend, who you can trust no matter what the difficult times are? And if you can't, that's also a question to ask yourself, why? And are you willing to let go of the past? Are you willing to be your most genuine and most authentic self? And that means showing your partner, yes, all of you, pulling down those masks that have protected you in the past, that have protected you so you don't feel hurt. But are you willing to open yourself regardless of what happens? But you know you are anchored in your own love, you're anchored in yourself, so much so that whatever happens, you know you're going to be amazing. You know you are going to be just fine, because your heart will always be there for you and never allow you to fail, because she's the forever unhurt and unstuck. Are you ready to really be immersed in this beautiful, loving, wholesome relationship that requires intimacy and honesty and openness and softness and gentleness and all of that? And if so, it's the best thing you'll ever encounter. And remember, the growth, the evolution, and conscious awakening can happen on your own. Yes, that feeling of yes. But the biggest practice and embodied experience is when you are in the relationship. That's when the real thing, magic, happens. And that because it stops being just about you. It is about you, but it's about you, your partner, and the relationship itself, where there is three. And remember, there's no perfect moment for a relationship. That's the thing. There's no need to search for it. It will really occur when the divine knows you are ready. So are you ready for that beautiful, conscious relationship? Thank you for watching, my loves. I hope you enjoyed that. Please share the love by liking the video, and I'm sending all my love to you. And if you would love to be continued to be held in this space of love, where you can continue rising forth and knowing your worth, so you can walk into relationships knowing your worth and setting your boundaries, setting your high standards, then I ask you and I invite you to join me in Feminine Remembrance, Come Home to Yourself, the 10-week group immersion, where you will come home to you and just feel amazing all over. You will start to embody your sensuality, your pleasure. You will start to open up to the beautiful bliss of life and become this magnet to love. I want that for you, sister. All my love to you. Mwah.